Hello everybody and welcome to a bit of a part series that I'll be filming mostly tonight. I'll probably release them all at once. But I want to talk about collecting, reselling and buying. Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about collecting, those other two sort of go hand in hand with it. If you are a collector for any period of time, you will dabble in selling and of course you're going to be buying. So I figured I'd talk about characters that I've noticed don't sell well, some other observations, and basically turn into a bit of a series because, to give you a bit of pretext for everything here, over the past year and a half, 2 years, I've sort of been selling a fair bit on eBay. And in that time, I picked up a few very big lots of Thomas. So, I guess this video is sort of one half of that. I'm not going to talk about the characters I sold straight away, although I might mention a few. My memory's not great, but I will talk about characters that shelf sit. Because it's interesting, A, from a reseller's perspective, what characters you're not really going to want to buy, and B, from a buyer's perspective, if these are characters you want, you can be fairly aggressive in your negotiations. And if they say no, well, the reality is, you now know that they're really quite worthless. So there is an exception to all this, and I will talk about the exception first. So all these characters you see here, some of them have been up for about a year and a half, some have been up for a few months, maybe about 6 months or so, I think since at least Easter. But one exception to all this is this Metallic Duke. I've enlisted this thing up about a month ago, maybe a bit longer, and it hasn't sold. Now, what's interesting about this is that I actually had 3 metallics. I had 2 metallic Dukes and 1 metallic Lord Harry. The Lord Harry and one of the Dukes sold basically instantly. It was 7 hours and they were gone. And I was quite surprised actually by that. And I figured a month ago, why not just list up the other one? I thought about keeping it, but it doesn't really fit with my collection, which I think I've done an Ertl collection before, which is maybe I've shown it on stream. I only ever collect this box. In fact, it's the 3 blue box ones you have here, Diesel 10, Old Slow Coach, and the Fire Truck were all copies that I once had that I've since upgraded. So Duke's the exception. He's at 120 Australian, which is I think a fair bit less than the other people are asking, but it hasn't sold. And considering the economic situation, I doubt it will. People are very tight with their money right now, so I've found that I'm selling far less. But at the end of the day, this is a hobby for me. So I am completely fine with that. And basically, it's just the way it is. It's also a good time to be... You try to be reasonable in a time like this as well. Hence, actually, I've dropped the price on like half of these. Just before making the video, because I was looking and went, why do I have that so high? And I should talk about those ones first. Firstly is Sir Topham Hatt's car. I have no idea why I had this at $40. Because it's not the best box-wise. It's faded, it's yellowed a bit. And it's got stickers, and it's got Sharpie damage, and got... I don't know why. It might have been at the time it made sense. Bear in mind, this is one of what I like to call the old guard. So if it's got Sharpie writing on it, this was part of a basically 80 Ertl new in box lot I bought for about 300 Australian, which is basically nothing. I mean, that's like a $3, $4 an Ertl. I didn't end up keeping any of it because it was all ended up being this. I would have actually liked to have kept some, but... And they all had damage. I was like, alright, I'll just try and sell them. And I think we'll see a few here, but from memory, I think I ended up selling basically all of them. This is one of the few exceptions, and obviously it was priced too high. I don't quite understand why I had it that high. So I actually lowered it. I think this one is now 25, which I should explain each of these rows are. So I think let's start with the worst conditioned one out of all of these, which is this canal boat. I had this at 20. I think I dropped it to 15. Even then, I think that's probably a bit high. Very, very unpopular character. I mean, I can't even shift the nice condition one for 20, so I don't think I have any luck with this. It's weird. There's a point with box damage and box wear where it's probably more advantageous to take the item out of the box. And I would say this is definitely good for someone who just wants the item. Because, yeah, the box is not great. Or someone who just wants to get into, just start collecting them. Because, I mean, something like this is just cheap. So that's 15. Yeah, I think I had it at 20. I think I had them both at 20. I ended up dropping this one. But, yeah, look. The non-name characters are never going to sell well. In fact, if you look at this assortment here, ignoring these for a second, most of these are just rolling stock or just generic figures. I mean, great example is obviously Canal Boat, but also the Fire engine, very unpopular. You've got, I think it only ever came in the blue box, so you've got that going against it. And just, they seem to be everywhere. I mean, I think this probably would have been one of the last things sitting on shelves. In fact, I've bought used Ertls before in small lots, basically at like charity shops, and most of them have a fucking Fire engine, just because it would have still been available in like 06, 07, I think, and hence why they're pretty much worthless. And I think there's a couple on eBay at around the $20, $25 mark. Mine was at 25, dropped it to 20. Which is a shame, because it's actually a really nice piece. In fact, I would say Ertl vehicles, which is what Ertl did pretty much more than Thomas, to begin with at least, are very good. Obviously we have rolling stock. The boxes on these ones aren't amazing. It's Tara Milk with a sticker damage on the front and back. Soda Royal. Again, I think I see some people trying to get like 40 to 50 for these in better box nick. I've got them at 20 in that condition, and honestly, I think 30 is probably it. I had some, for reference, I had some express coaches, which is probably the most desirable out of all of these. At 30, I think I accepted an offer for 24. In fact, they're sitting right over there to be shipped off tomorrow. But the thing with rolling stock especially, and this is actually something I'd really recommend, again, if it's a generic road vehicle, or if it's rolling stock, basically I would say just lowball, lowball, lowball. The worst they can say is no. Of course, there is obviously a minimal lowball. I mean, for me, on a $20 Ertl box thing, I'd probably accept 15, maybe, depending. But I'm pretty much happy to leave them at 20. And I think that'd be the case for a lot of sellers. Some are obviously going to be a bit more hard-assed than others. Thomas Trade Exchange tends to be somewhat lenient, at least within about $5 to $10 or a percentage range. Reinecker, forget about it. He's not at all, they are not at all really open to negotiations. Maybe a few bucks off if you buy a few, but basically, no. So if you see their price, that's what they want, and they're going to get that. Well, sorry, they're going to want to get that. So, at the end of the day, even in Great Nick, I wouldn't be paying more than $30 for each of these. They're everywhere. They were shelf sitters at the time. No. I mean, pretty much the same thing goes to 25 row. I mean, the most valuable thing here, or the one I'd say that's value's tanked over time, has got to be Old Slow. I think there was a time where it was more a $30 to $40 item, and now it's more like a $20 to $25. I would not be paying much more than 30. This box one is alright, not the best, got some wear. I had this one at 30, well maybe I had this one at 40, and I finally, I had a look at that, and like Stubborn's car, I think that was more a reflection of their value at the time. Now, you've dropped them. And this is also a thing to resellers. You've got to be sometimes checking to make sure your prices are reasonable. There are times when items will go up in value, and they'll go down in value. I would say generally items are sort of all over the place. So you've got to sort of be aware and be willing to adjust. I think having offers is great, because someone might send me an offer and I'll think, that's not really quite fair. I'll go have a look at what other ones are selling for and go, actually, it's pretty reasonable. Offers are always good. I don't have a restriction on my offers. That's not necessarily the best thing. I get people offering like $1 from time to time, but it's not as often as you'd think, and it's just funny to me when they do. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're shooting your shot. If I say no, I say no. Now, my general policy is, unless the box is completely fucked on them, I don't tend to go below 30 listed value. I might accept offers below for characters. I mean, rolling stock and rolling stock characters like Chinese and probably 25 or below. Depending on the box condition, I'd say some of these may be a bit more, but I would say if it's just generic character, generic rolling stock, unless it's got something with it, like if it's Annie and Clarabelle, they're worth a bit more. Basically, no name, it's 20, 30 or less, basically. And then use box condition. Typically, your blue boxes are going to be your least valuable. There are exceptions. Your blue boxed Bluebell, for instance, is a fair bit rarer than your Owain Bell Bluebell. So it might command a bit of a higher price. But again, that's appealing to blue box collectors. There's not as many blue box collectors as there are Owain Bell, or the first style, or the UK style. So just keep that in mind as well. In fact, I would say if someone offered me a collection of 300 blue box versus 300 Owain Bell, I would probably pick the Owain Bell if I was on a pure selling basis. But sometimes blue boxes can get a bit more. It depends on the character, but mostly it's their stock standard ones. I mean, your smudges, your pump trolleys a little bit, but then again, they've also come down. Your Bertrams, but again, they've come down. I think I sold one for about 40, and I think they were more 50 to 70 before. So these are all prices in Australian as well. As you could see, I think, yeah, that'd be right. So of the original lot I got, the only three remaining are this Coldie, this Fat Controller's car, and this Canal Boat. I had another one which was a Henrietta, but I ended up just deciding, you know what, I fucking hate this Henrietta. It was the only one here that was a Shining Time. I said, you know what, I'm just going to give it to someone. So if you ordered a Bertram off me, the box was a little bit more worn, so I went, you know what, just have a fucking Henrietta. But because I think the box in Henrietta was a little bit worn as well. I had it up for 30, and Henrietta people want a lot, but no, look, Henrietta's not worth that much. 25 to 30, again, I had that Henrietta up for years, and no one really wanted it, which I thought was weird, actually, for a Shining Time boxed item, which are not exactly common in Australia. Hell, I don't even know how it got here, for that matter, but yeah, it was weird. Now we should move, we should probably move on to these two. I already talked about Duke. These are the only ones on my store that I've got up at a fairly higher markup. But even then, I'm thinking about one. So Daisy is at 50, and I think Diesel 10's at 75. So Daisy's hard to price because there's not really many of them. Honestly, this box probably is the least desirable. I would not buy it. It's very garish. Owain Bell. Yeah, Owain Bell probably you get 50 to 70. Blue box 50 to 70. I think you can get it in UK. Don't quote me on that, but if you can, maybe about the same. Diesel 10, again, hard one to price. What I will say though, before we continue with that, is if you have the Magic Railroad version, 75 any day of the week, someone will buy it within a few weeks. In fact, all Magic Railroad stuff I've ever bought has sold really quick. I had a lady, I think it sold for $60 the same day. Another lady, I think that sold for $75 the same day, or at least very quickly after. People want like $130. I think a lady sold for $130, which I think is far too much. I think the Magic Railroad stuff is cool, not worth nearly that much. I had a Splatter and Dodge, which tend to be the least desirable, I would say. I think I sold that for 30 to Ryan, and I think even then I was going to list it at 30 to 50. Box is a little bit faded. Diesel 10 is probably one of the more valuable ones, 75 to 100. Blue box is about the same. UK box is about the same. All these prices also apply to the Australian market. American market, I think you probably get a bit more. UK market, you tend to get a bit less. Not in general, of course. I think it really depends. UK market is not the best to look at value-wise because the UK market generally tends to value things pretty low. But then again, stuff like Wooden Railway tends to be pretty high. Although, again, UK market is a complete mess, and trying to understand that's not really great. Generally, they would tend to be the cheapest. Again, generally. But with probably a bit more limited range sometimes. Tomy, they have a lot. Wooden Railway, they've not really got a ton. That kind of goes to the entire European continent. I mean, it makes sense. The most popular market for Tomy was Europe, not Australia, and certainly not America. Australia's bread and butter was Wooden Railway, hence why there is so much here. But it's also very popular, so there's that as well. But actually, before I finish up, I'll finish up on these, and I want to mention something else. So, these two haven't been up for that long. I think maybe since April, May. They were definitely bought around Easter, so a few months. And yeah, okay. So let's talk about what I think the least popular characters to sell are. And I'll talk about the most popular characters to sell. So the least popular, by far, Canal Boat and Coldy. Alright, Coldy. It's just Coldy. No one wants him. These are $30, and I'd probably accept an offer of $20 by this point. And not even anyone sends me offers. No one wants Coldy. Lord Harry, Godred, people tend to want, but there is just no love for Coldy at all. Canal Boat is the same. Hence, they're the only two characters here that I have two of. Because I've bought a lot. I've got one gone, alright. I've bought another lot, got another and gone, alright. I think if I bought any more lots, there'd be fucking a few of them in there too. I'd stay away from them. But if you're a collector, Coley and the Canal Boat, and basically any of these characters here would be a good place to start. I'm not saying necessarily to buy from me, but do some research, look around, and you probably see that these ones are the cheapest ones anyway. Haggle a bit, and you might be able to get them for as low as $10. Definitely go for lot buys on them. I wouldn't recommend buying them piecemeal unless you're just missing one. And even then, again, you probably want a lowball. And that's basically all I have to say about Ertl. I don't have that many left, and I think in a year's time I'll probably have the Coldies still. I'll probably have the Coldies and the Canal Boats, but everything else will probably be gone. And the thing is, Ertl, new and box lots, I'd say, are frequent enough still that I'm not going to say that they're going to be hard to find. They might go that way more, but then again, people collection dump these all the time. What they don't collection dump is what will be in the next video. Take along. New in box. Now, that's a whole other subject, and I think it's going to be very much worth it. So stick around for that. Thank you all for watching. Bye for now.